Hey, this is Old Man Yells at Cloud for Blue Powder Monkeys Patreon. And I'm here today working on my Pathfinder map, or actually my world map, I guess. I've talked about this before, I think. I basically created, like, every young D&D player when I started playing in the 70s or 80s, whenever it was, created my own world map, and that's what I mostly use to run adventures. But I'm to kind of the point now where I want to develop an adventure path for Pathfinder taking place in that world, and I've been working on using Wonderdraft here to create maps. I've been having a little trouble kind of figuring out what I want to do with my scale, but I finally did, I think. Originally, I kind of had it set up. Let me see if I can find the original world map here. I have it on here. Yeah, I created this in Wonderdraft, which was traced over the piece of typing paper I'd originally drawn this map for back in the day. And I originally was going to try to kind of hex it up. Each of these hexes are 240 miles. Yeah. And I was basically going to try to recreate each hex in Wonderdraft and kind of scale the map. The issue I ran into is that at this size, the details are, a little vague. 240 miles is not going to give you like a nice navigational blah, blah, blah. And more importantly, like square or hex 11 here, like nothing's going on out there. There's no adventure I'm going to run in it. You want to leave the idea of creating this sort of world thing is my world is broken up into geographical areas off the compass, and it's separated by this big desert in the middle that no one can cross. So it's very hard, to go to the south. You kind of have to go down through this little area here. To get over to the east, you kind of you have to go up this very dangerous strait in between Willican Island, which is a big foresty area, and Nevermore, which is all stormy and monstery and all that. And Willican Island itself is kind of more populated and civilized kind of to the north. And this is very rough land, so it'd be tough to kind of come through here. Sailing wise, this is dangerous. This is long. East and north maybe interact a little bit. But these are mostly sort of like northern barbarian states, and they kind of keep to themselves and all that. So each one has a different sort of feel. Southerly jungle, tropical sort of stuff. This is sort of more traditional D&D, and this is northern barbarian, mountainous adventures. And this adventure, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, or I've more or less created to different degrees, a 1 to 20th level adventure path for each section. So again, this one's kind of more dungeon-y based, mountain outdoory kind of thing. This one, if I remember right, is like a lot of tribal stuff, nature-y things, some outdoors. I haven't dialed this one all the way in yet. And then this adventure path takes place in a city. It's basically city adventure for the most part. There is some traveling and all that. Maybe one or two traditional dungeons. But there is a big city right here, which, let me see if I can find the player's map to kind of show you what they get to see. Yeah, there we go. All right. So that's the section. Oh, just came into this. All right. You can kind of see there's this lake, and then Tennessee is the big city that they adventure in, and then you kind of go south a little bit sometimes, and you can go up to Blackwater and Triori and all that. But it's basically around this lake, and it's mostly, there's some outdoor stuff, but there's a lot of urban stuff in it. Tennessee is very human centric, so it's sort of modeled. I want to say Warhammer, but that kind of does it a disservice. It's not that sort of fascist-y, super mech suit, steampunk engine-y stuff, though. I mean, that could be fun. It's more kind of like very organized religious town, very human-centric town, and you're investigators for the church, basically, and you're going out and getting rid of heretics and doing all that kind of stuff. So because of that, we'll get back to the map area. By the way, music, which I normally talk about, I have playlists in VLC Media Player. I'm a big album guy. I sometimes have like favorite song stuff, but a lot of times I just like to listen to a whole album. And I have various ones that I was using a lot for writing and creating that are basically movie soundtracks because I'm really into movie soundtrack stuff. Not like musicals, though I like musicals fine, but like the actual orchestrated soundtrack. So this one started out with Equinox, which is not a soundtrack, but it's synthesizer type stuff. Goes into Tangerine Dream Sorcerer soundtrack, which I've listened to literally 1,000 times or more. Prisoners, Alien, Arrival, Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, Road to Perdition, Shawshank Redemption, and then ends with Ex Machina. If I've gotten clear down to Ex Machina, it means I've worked way too long because that's like 6 or 8 hours or some shit. So anyway, it's kind of in the middle of Sorcerer right now, and that's what's going on there. So because I have one main adventure in each of these areas, I kind of don't want to super map out the rest of it because God forbid a GM actually buys this when I put it out and they want to kind of run their own stuff in the world. I want them to have all the space in the world to kind of design stuff or plug things in or whatever. So this Tanisichi adventure is going to be like this area. I'm not even going to touch down in here. Like I'll have like vague descriptions of things. This is like an elven island and all that. The other one I haven't mapped out entirely yet. This one takes place in and around a large city called Rail, which is right here. And they travel up the coast, and then there's a bunch of dungeons and stuff through here that they kind of go through, maybe a little bit south and all that. And then northern stuff may start north. I haven't mapped that entirely out yet as well. It'll end up more than likely on Winterton, and there'll be lots of outdoor hack and slash, all the rest of that. All right. Because of that, you don't really need to get tied into these. Did I say squares? Nice. I don't really need to get tied into kind of numbering these hexagons because I don't need that level of detail. What I do need is super detail around here, and then everything else is okay. This doesn't have enough detail as well for players wise. It's kind of a general map, but you kind of want to see a map of the city, which I have, and all the rest of that. So, excuse me. The map of the city, one of the maps of the city is this. So the city is broken up into 5 quarters, which I know doesn't sound right, but there were originally 4, and then they broke up Old Harbor and Cold Harbor. So history. So originally there was one. This was a quarter of the city, the Muck, and then the Plains and the East Wall and all that. So this is the city. This is the city scale, and I'm happy with the city and the city scale. So everything else needs to work off of this, and I know that I want Lake Ichi, which is this big lake that it kind of sits on, sort of Chicago style, I guess. I want that lake to be like 300 miles. So I had to devise a scale where I made this gross little scale thing in Affinity, because Wonderdraft is really good for what it does, but it's not good for some other stuff that I need. So, like all programs, I guess. So anyway, so I created this little scale, and this being 240 or 480. Yeah. This being a hex being 480, that means this is 220. And then this becomes 110. And then this becomes like 55. Did I do that right? I might have messed that up, actually. That's funny. It's not going to matter too much, though. Oh, no, 240 was the original. That's right. Hex is 240. Yeah, because that's 2 hexes. So we had 240, 120, 60, 30. I did it right. All right. So, oh, shoot. So basically traveling from Tanisichi down to the coast is going to be 50, 55 miles or whatever. And there is an adventure that kind of takes place down there. So using that, I found this old map of Tanisichi I did a million years ago in Illustrator that had all the little towns to the north marked off all the way up the coast. And this is what I need, this area, including down here. So I sort of drew in a rough estimate of the southern border, where Willikin Island is, this little island that's off the side of Willikin Island. And so that's what I want to dial in on. So that's what this is. Basically, I set up a big old map. It's like 8,000 by 6,000 or something, gigantic, and then dialed in these little hexes. Oop, that's right. I can't do the finger spread anymore to zoom in because it just draws instead because it's weird. Anyway, so these little hexes are 20 miles across. So this was 30 miles on the other map, right? So I was able to kind of line it up and be like, this is on this map. This equals 20 miles. And then you can see the tiny little map that equaled 5 miles, which I did 10. And then I sort of just guesstimated that in theory, that's an old map of Tennessee that is now defunct. Do I want this? No, I don't. Okay. Anyway, so you can see that roughly from here to here should equal here to here, because this is 20, 10, 5. So this little thing basically fits in here. So that's the scale, as you can see. So now I'm going to go back through and do all this little detail. Not quite as detailed as the city map, but that's fine. But I may just indicate the city with a little star or something, but I can go up and stick Blackwater where it's supposed to be, I guess north of these 3 little doodads, and then all these little villages up the coast, I can just sort of mark them, and then the players have a decent mapping thing. And then by their second level adventure takes place about 3 miles outside the city, so I can kind of mark that. And then the third level adventure takes place on the coast before they head back up, so I can kind of mark that. So that's what's going on. So for now, I'm going to just start drawing stuff, which is the fun part, right? Now, there's different ways to work in Wonderdraft. I don't quite get the water tab, I'm sorry to say. This is, I guess, painting water a certain color. Yeah, that didn't do much. I could be using it wrong. I don't know. That's just erase. This one, what is this one? Freshwater brush. That's lakes. That's the what tip? River tool. Yeah, makes sense. And then whatever this is. Water appearance tool, I guess. Anyway. So there's probably, let's see. Oh, that's way too small. It's funny. And then the river kind of draws river lines out and all the rest of that. What I prefer to do with this sort of monochromatic thing that I'm doing is not use the water stuff at all for the most part. I use the land. I paint in all the land. I overpaint on the edges because the paint for the land, all it has is size. But the raised land and lower land, and I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. That's cool. That has a roughness, which is what I want. And I could underpaint and then raise the land, but instead I, for whatever reason, I like to overpaint and then shrink the land. So that's 100%. That's how big the map is. So I want to go maybe up to about 200% at least, so I can get some detail in there. And I got my little brush doodad, and then I'll leave the roughness at 1, and then I just start doing this. And I'll probably do 2 passes. This pass will get us close. And then I can do a pass where I use a smaller brush, basically. All right. And I'm going to do this Willikin stuff first, because just get it out of the way. before I get into the... It's also kind of late tonight, and it's been really warm here. Thank you, global climate change. So I'm going to save the important stuff because the players will more than likely never see this part of the map. I could have left those there, I guess. Sometimes I end up creating like, oh, there's a new island. Didn't exist before. There's another one. And there's no right, or sorry, I should go the opposite direction. There's no wrong way to do this. Like, you're creating a landmass. Unless you're copying some old map that you had that was super specific, you can dial into like, oh, I really wanted an inlet in this specific spot or whatever. But honestly, this is fine. Actually, I think 2 passes never work for me because I'm lazy. So let's just shrink this down. It's a little too small. Let's find a good comfy... Fuck. Hit some sort of weird key. Let's move this down to like 35. Let's go down to 30. There we go. And I can adjust the roughness if I want something to be smooth, which I may come back in and determine where the water, like where this big strait kind of pours out. Like probably in here. Those islands probably aren't the best, or maybe up in here. Anyway. Honestly, I don't mind the landscape looking a little rough. I'm going to work it out a little bigger and get a better sense of... Actually, I kind of liked it. There we go. Oh, shit. Let's leave that now. See how you can just try to change stuff that you want to change? That's what I like about this roughness tool. Just like makes things look cooler. I won't ever remember, but sometimes they've even like, oh, this is like little mousy or devil horns over the top of this little area here, and I could name it that if I had some way of just stopping suddenly and recording things. Come back and watch this video, I guess. This is, I'm guessing, not pressure sensitive. It might supposed to be. It doesn't feel like it is. Because, yeah, none of that's changing or doing anything weird. And that might be a tablet setting I have. I don't know. might be that they just aren't pressure sensitive. Actually want that to be a little smoother, so let's do that. Too much. Making this smoother because if I remember, I'm going to basically say that this is mostly, there's maybe like a large population center right there. I did mention that a lot of the population is on the north end. Northeast end, technically. Let's see where that is in relation to the bigger map. That's fine. It doesn't matter that I didn't come out there because whatever I'm doing right now becomes the official version of the map. Okay, come over here. It's cool. Someday I'll figure out how I do that. I do it every once in a while. I'm sure Wacom can tell me. I like the islands in this little area being very rocky or very misshapen. I feel like this is like a tumultuous section of the strait. Calling this the arrowhead. All right, so now let's do this. Go to overlay, go to that, and go yoink. Look at that. That looks pretty cool. Get this weird little thing in the middle here. See, total mistake, but we're going to pretend like that was a volcano. Nice. Okay. So now let's go back to here. Turn this up a little bit. Get to work on this side. Pretty high up there. Let's turn that down. Sometimes I try to work in both directions so that all my stuff isn't like angled based on my handedness. could use erase to create some of these islands like this. It doesn't create, it's a little more control actually. It doesn't create the craggly bits. Just literally goes where I tell it to erase. All right. That looks pretty good. Now I'm debating whether to make this an inlet or a freshwater ocean, but a freshwater ocean, or sorry, freshwater, well, yeah, freshwater sea or lake or whatever. This already seems kind of close. And this seems even closer. Like this is 10 miles. And I don't know that there are any lakes, any major lakes, 10 miles. But then that means there's a mountain here and the water is kind of running off down through here. So that's okay. Don't mind. Oop. It's going to not let me move it back to where it was. Oh, that's so annoying. Okay, so what was this? I guess it doesn't matter too much. Get back in the area. That seems okay. All right. See, again, not super panicky about it. What this also is going to do is make me reevaluate all this stuff down here. Because there's no way there'd be like cross islands. That turned way up to fill in large chunks. Okay, then yoke. There, I've just made something much more interesting than what the original map had on it. Now comes the theoretical tricky bit, which is the island. And that is the thing that I want to really be awake for. So this may be it. Let's see if there's anything. I could do maybe some of those rivers. Be okay. So we go land. I think this time we're going to use erase. Way too big. So we can literally measure this thing and be like, well, if that's 5 miles and this is just a few. I can adjust the ends and all that after I do the lake. So that is what I've got. And then I'll come back in and do the lake. And then I'll start placing the cities with a little city stuff and all the rest of that. That'll be for next time. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Subscribe if you want to be notified of new videos posting up. And if you want to help out the channel and check out, I would say check out our Blue Powder Monkeys Patreon, but I believe this is going to be Patreon post. So you're already there. If for some reason this shows up later for free, then check on our Blue Powder Monkeys Patreon to get current stuff. There we go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.